Reputation is arguably the most important driver of success in Football Manager. The higher your club's reputation, the more fans are going to come through the door, the more sponsors are going to come and give you some money, and the better quality players are going to want to sign for your club. All in all, that means more success. But thanks to a suggestion from the comments, today we're taking all the clubs in the Premier League, including the 5-star reputation teams such as Man City, Man United and Liverpool, and making them all 1-star reputation. As you can see, Man City now have a 1-star local reputation. As we can see using the in-game editor, Man City's reputation is now 1,819, which is the lowest it can be for a 1-star reputation. And so very simply, now we've reset the reputation of all of these clubs, we're going to simulate into the future and find out how far these clubs can fall or how quickly some of them are going to regain their reputation. Clubs can increase their reputation by doing well in domestic leagues, domestic cups and European competitions. The better they do, the more increase they're going to have to their reputation. Reputation will decrease if you finish lower than where you're expected to finish in your domestic tables, don't do very well in cups, or get relegated. And so because only 3 clubs can get relegated from the Premier League every single season, it's going to be really interesting to see how far they drop down the Football League and even into non-league, as they just can't garner enough reputation to sign good enough players to survive at each of those levels. On the flip side, it'll be really interesting to find out which clubs can gain enough reputation quickly to get back to signing the world-class players they need to compete in the Champions League and get back to winning ways. So if you like this idea, make sure you drop a like on the video for me and subscribe to the channel down below. First of all though, I want to go one season into the future, and as you can see, Man City win the title from Liverpool just like real life, but Leeds United have done very well by coming 3rd in the Premier League. Congratulations to them. Watford, Brighton and Norwich, all the teams getting relegated. Now what is really interesting is that Wout Weghorst all of a sudden has become the top scorer in the Premier League. Lukaku finished 2nd and Bamford finished 3rd. You might think, well, Lukaku is still at Chelsea. Why is that the case? Because essentially in this universe, Chelsea have gone from a world-class team to being, well, the reputation is local. Like no one outside London really knows about them in this version of the universe with such a low reputation. Why is Lukaku still there? Well, in this version of the game, he's only just signed for them, so isn't going to move on from a different club. But we have seen that Salah, Mane and Laporte are still at Liverpool and Man City. They've not moved on to other clubs. And in fact, a lot of players haven't actually ended up leaving the Premier League. If anything, more players have actually come in, which is rather bizarre. I thought it'd be completely different. I thought all the big clubs would lose their best players as they want to go on to play for better teams across Europe with high reputations. So if we look at Man City's team, for example, they've not lost anyone. Like it's still a very, very top quality team. But their reputation has basically doubled, actually, more than doubled since the start of this experiment. It's gone from 1,819 up to almost 4,000. That's a massive increase in one season, and it shows how important the Premier League and the Champions League is. Norwich, though, who finished down in 20th, their reputation has actually gone down. It was 1,819 in line with the other clubs. It's now 1,580, so it's actually gone down to half a star of reputation. I think Norwich are going to be in for a really difficult situation here. So now we're going to jump to season 5, and hopefully we're going to see a lot of players leaving the Premier League as they want to join higher reputation clubs across Europe. But if you want to keep up to date with all the real life transfers, then make sure you download the OneFootball app, the best football app out there to keep up to date with all the latest football news, scores, updates and transfers from around the world. You can follow your favourite team and get push notifications sent straight through to you when anything happens in a game or big transfers happen. And of course, you can even watch live games now on the app, which is a really cool feature. So if you really want to help me and the channel out, make sure you do download the OneFootball app from the top line of the description for absolutely free. So 5 years into the future, and Man City have won the title again, and actually they've won it 4 out of the 5 seasons running. So Man City are doing very well for themselves, with Thiago Thomas being the 2nd top scorer in the league behind Lukaku, who has stayed at Chelsea, interestingly. Liverpool come in 2nd, Man United 3rd, Chelsea 4th, Fulham up in 5th and Aston Villa in 6th. But Nottingham Forest ended up winning the Europa League in 10th place there, so they also get a European competition. What we can see though, which is quite dramatic, is Arsenal have been relegated. Arsenal not doing a good enough job. They've lost a lot of really good players, although saying that, they've still got Tomiyasu, they've still got Ben White, they've still got Nicolas Pepe, who in FM is pretty good, but they have lost a lot of top quality players. There's no Saka, there's no Martinelli, there's no Emile Smith-Rowe. Reece Nelson's still kicking around, but only on the bench. maybe not the greatest of times for Arsenal. If you look at their history, they have had a bit of an interesting time of things. They finished 12th one season, so actually 12th their lowest finish. This is a really big drop for them in one season. Finished 10th last season, so just a poor year for Arsenal. But their reputation has massively dropped. It's 1,320. That's ridiculous. So they've been finishing way below their expected positions, obviously, which has massively affected their reputation to a point where, if we look at the overview, they're an obscure team. Like, virtually no one outside of North London has heard of Arsenal in this version of the universe, and they've been relegated. Let's compare that to Man City. Their reputation is 6,663, so it's getting up there. It was about 9,800 at the start of this experiment, so basically as high as it can be, and they're slowly getting back up there. But if we look at their transfer history, they're not bringing in the level of players that they would expect to be bringing in. I mean, just going back through seasons, none of these players would be regarded as like world-class, world-beating players. And that's obviously who they'd want to ordinarily bring in. So we can see an impact here on the transfer front. However, they're still making it work in the Premier League. If we scroll down into the Championship though, and let's have a look for former Premier League clubs, well, Norwich and Watford have both just been relegated from the Championship. So maybe the reputation hit hasn't been quite as big for these clubs. They're making it work, but I'm sure they are starting to lose players. And the fact that Norwich and Watford have just been relegated, they've still got local reputation. It's not good. But I think there could be some other teams that have gone down a little bit lower. So if we look at League One, we can see in League One that Leeds United have dropped down there. And that's huge because they came third in season 1, which is actually quite dramatic considering that they got Champions League football, then got relegated the next season, had a terrible season in the Championship, and then got relegated again, which is really interesting. If we look at their reputation, it's actually higher than those clubs that we saw earlier of Norwich and Arsenal. But despite that, and the Champions League football and the money that came with it, they've not been able to do anything with it, bring the players in, and they're plummeting like a stone. But it's really not good for Burnley. They find themselves in League 2, where they have just been in the playoffs. They did lose the playoffs. Lincoln City won the title, which is good, but it means they are in League 2, which is not so good. But still, Burnley dropping down quite some way. Their reputation, let's have a quick look at it, is 1,704, so lower than it was at the start. So let's jump to the end of this experiment, which is 15 years into the future. And as you can see, Chelsea have won the title by 1 point ahead of Man City. And looking at the past winners here, you can see that Man City and Chelsea have been trading titles for a long time. They are the two best teams in the Premier League and have established themselves as the very best. Premier League itself has dropped down to third in reputation rankings recently, and that's obviously due to the fact that these English clubs have not been doing particularly well in European competitions. That's what the competition reputation rankings is all based on, but they have got themselves back into second place behind La Liga. Now let's look at Chelsea's reputation. They're back to 8,100, which is one of the highest you can have in the game, really. It's out of 10,000 reputation, but there aren't many clubs with 8,000 plus reputation. So Chelsea are right back up there, essentially not too far from where they started. Man City, 9,997, higher than it was at the start of this experiment. So Man City are back and have exceeded their reputation. So fair play to them with the Vincent Kompany Arena as their new stadium. So Man City within 15 years are back right up to where they were. They can sign the very best players in the world. And obviously they've done that by winning most Premier Leagues since this experiment started. Interesting to see Newcastle and Man United back up there in the top 4 as well. Liverpool and Villa and Sunderland finish off the European places. But the Premier League does look quite different. Teams like Peterborough, QPR, Blackburn, all up in there. So congrats to them. Whilst we're here looking at the big teams, have Man City won a Champions League? They've won 5 of them. Okay, so this reputation thing has not affected Man City in the slightest. They were, not great for a couple of seasons, but they've won 5 and lost 2 Champions League finals, getting to 7 finals in total. The only English club to have got there, so Man City are class. They're absolutely fine. Liverpool won the Europa League. Fulham have come runners-up in there. Liverpool runners-up as well. So there's a few English teams getting to the finals. And I think it should say over here that Newcastle play Man United in the most recent or upcoming final, I should say, in a couple of days' time or so. So good luck to either of those teams that win it. And in the Conference League, Middlesbrough have found themselves in the final of that one. And we can see that teams like Fulham, Villa and Blackburn have all gone on to win it. And Forest lost in the final as well, unlucky to them. So very quickly, the English clubs got back to the top of European football, which is pretty impressive. But of course, a lot of the clubs at the top end of Europe from England were not expected to be there because a lot of clubs who should be there or would ordinarily be there have dropped off. Let's try and find them, shall we? In the Championship, we can see there are clubs in here such as none of them. Burnley in 23rd of the original Premier League teams. Wow. So a lot have dropped an awful lot lower than this to only have Burnley in the Championship. I will say Wrexham and Woking have done really well to get themselves from non-league up to the Championship. That's very impressive, so congratulations to them. If we drop into League One though and have a look at the league table, West Ham been promoted back to the Championship, congrats to them. Everton are in League One. Also looking in League One are Leeds United. Arsenal dropped down to League One as well, but that's only 4 teams that we've seen. There's more lower down. Heading into League 2 and Norwich are there, they got promoted back to League 1. We can also see Leicester are in there as well. But again, that's only 2 clubs, which does suggest that there are more former Premier League teams a lot lower, massively affected by the reputation changes. If we look at Norwich, for example, actually, we've not looked at any of these clubs' reputations, have we? But Norwich are up to 3,100, which is pretty typical, I think, for a League 2 club. If we just jump back into League 1, for example, just to have a look at West Ham, their reputation has stabilised around 3,000, 3,500, which again is not too dissimilar to what you'd expect for a League 1 club. Lincoln City, for example, 3,200, very similar to West Ham. The National League, though, has been won by Southampton, who have got a reputation of 2,400. So they've actually increased their reputation a little bit since the start of this experiment. But to do that, they had to drop all the way down to the National League and end up trying to win it. Are there other former Premier League clubs in the National League? Brentford are in there. They've dropped all the way down and haven't been promoted back to the Football League just yet. But no one else that I can see. If we drop down to the regional Manorama National North and South, looking in the north side of things, there's no former Premier League team there yet. And if we look in the south, are there any former Premier League teams in here? The answer to that one is no. So after going through all of the leagues individually, I found out that there are 7 clubs left in the Premier League. They are Chelsea, Man City, Newcastle, Man United, Liverpool, Aston Villa and Tottenham. There is 1 team left in the Championship, and that is Burnley, who just got relegated. In League 1, there's West Ham, Everton, Brighton, Wolves, Leeds United, Arsenal and Watford, 7 teams. In League 2, 3 teams, Norwich, Crystal Palace and Leeds United. And in non-league, Southampton, who just won the title, as well as Brentford. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen other clubs drop down even further into the National League North and South, and even potentially even lower down into the depths of non-league. But I think it certainly shows the power of reputation in Football Manager, how it can keep you at the top if you have a really good reputation and do well in European competitions, and it also shows how the clubs stay there because they have the reputation to bring in the quality players that they need to stay there. But also once they lose reputation, start to drop down the tables, you can see just how fast a club can drop down in Football Manager.